There seems to be a manor up ahead. The football team captain, with sharp eyes, shouted, pointing at the only lit building on the distant hillside. The American-style retro manor loomed like a dormant beast in the night, standing alone amid the wind and rain. The prairie downpour came suddenly and fiercely, with bean-sized raindrops pounding the car windows with a crackling sound. Thunder rumbled, as if splitting the sky open. Left with no other choice, we held on to the faint hope and stumbled toward it step by step, treading through the muddy grass. The manor's gate was imposing, with an intricately carved iron gate tightly shut. The class monitor took a deep breath and pressed the doorbell beside it. After a long while, the gate creaked open a narrow crack. Leaning against the doorframe stood a young man. He wore a black silk shirt, with the collar loosely unbuttoned at the top 2 buttons, revealing his delicate collarbone. His eyes were half closed, his gaze enchanting and evil, exuding a lazy weariness, as if our arrival had disturbed his peaceful sleep. His skin was so pale it was almost translucent, and under the warm yellow light, he looked too beautiful to be real, yet there was a dangerous aura about him that kept strangers at bay. Our bus broke down, the monitor politely explained our purpose, his tone pleading. Could we pay to stay here for one night? The young man said nothing, just stared at us quietly. His pitch-black pupils were like thick, unfading ink, swirling with an incomprehensible playfulness. Please, just one night. We'll pay whatever you want. One of the classmates couldn't help but beg, clasping his hands together, his face filled with anxiety. The others quickly echoed, and I joined in, though my heart was inexplicably racing, as if I had been locked onto by some dangerous presence. The young man's gaze finally landed on me, and a faint, ambiguous smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Sure. He introduced himself, my name is Jesse Lynn. We let out a collective sigh of relief, thinking we had narrowly escaped disaster. Jesse instructed the butler to arrange rooms for us and even had toiletries delivered. Exhausted from the long day's journey, everyone collapsed onto their beds and fell into a deep sleep immediately. But as I lay there, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in my heart. That inexplicable sense of dread lingered, and I tossed and turned for a long time before finally drifting off into a restless sleep. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in the soft bed anymore, but in a cold, damp basement. My wrists and ankles were chained to iron rings bolted into the wall with icy metal chains, leaving me completely immobile. Around me, cries and curses echoed endlessly. My classmates were all locked in iron cells, their faces filled with terror. Let us go. Who are you people? Someone kicked the iron cell door angrily, their voice hoarse. This is kidnapping. My parents will call the police. Wah, I want to go home. Only then did I realize that the fluttering feeling in my heart hadn't been infatuation, but an instinctive warning of danger. Human trafficking, cross-border crimes, gang retaliation, countless terrifying thoughts flashed through my mind. I glanced around and spotted a rusty wire in the corner, and a desperate idea immediately took hold. I'd rather end my own life than fall into the hands of these people. I picked up the wire, my fingers trembling slightly. What if state troopers arrived soon? What if this was just a prank? But as I looked at the desperate scene around me, these thoughts were quickly dispelled. I closed my eyes, pressed the wire against my wrist, and was about to apply force when a sudden burst of hurried footsteps approached. Jesse pushed open the cell door and rushed straight toward me, snatching the wire from my hand. His face was dark with rage, and the coldness in his eyes was almost enough to freeze me solid. I cursed silently in my heart. I should have acted faster. Now it was over, I probably wouldn't even get a chance to end my own life. The football team captain clung to the iron bars and shouted insults at Jesse, spewing vulgarities without restraint. Jesse still wore a smile on his face, but there was not a trace of warmth in his eyes. He calmly pulled out a red-hot branding iron from behind him and strode toward the captain. The captain scrambled back in terror, but he couldn't escape. The branding iron seared a clear triangular mark onto his lips, and his scream echoed through the entire basement. Everyone was stunned into silence by the horrific scene. No one dared to make a sound anymore. Jesse turned around, his gaze locking onto me once again. His voice was soft, yet it carried an undeniable sense of oppression. "Ella, let's play a game." As soon as he said "Ella," everyone around us froze, and their glances toward me suddenly became complex, even filled with a hint of murderous intent. "I don't know him," I quickly clarified, my heart pounding wildly. The smile on Jesse's face vanished instantly, and a flash of killing intent flickered in his eyes. "I make the rules. Win once, and I'll let one person go. Lose once, and I'll send one person out of the manor. I can't play." I waved my hands frantically. "The top student in our class is great at math, let him play against you instead. If you refuse, I'll send all of them away right now." Jesse's tone was light, yet it carried a deadly threat. The chains suddenly snapped open, and the cell door swung wide. My legs went weak, and I could barely crawl out. Looking at the familiar faces in the iron cells, tears gushed out of my eyes, my voice trembling. "Seniors and sisters, I'm being forced to do this. If anything happens to you, please don't blame me." Some of the girls started crying along with me. Only the monitor shouted at me, "Ella, you can do this. You'll definitely get us out of here." Jesse frowned, his eyes turning cold and cruel. "Shut up, all of you." The basement fell silent in an instant. He looked at me and announced the start of the game, truth or dare, alternating turns. "Answer incorrectly, and I'll send someone away." "Will you really let us go?" I asked first. "Everyone except you," Jesse replied, dashing my last glimmer of hope like a bucket of cold water. "That depends on the situation." He sat down on a leather sofa in the middle of the basement, his posture lazy and relaxed. "Among these people here, who have you liked?" I glanced at my classmates and spoke the truth, "No one." A flash of disappointment crossed the monitor's face, but he quickly masked it. "Why are you doing this to us?" I pressed on, trying to find his weakness. "Because I enjoy it." Jesse raised an eyebrow, his tone filled with a perverted obsession. He lowered his eyes and asked again, "Who have you lied to?" "My parents, teachers, classmates, that's all." I shook my head. But Jesse refused to let it go. He pointed at the monitor, "Then I'll send him away tonight." "It's really everyone." I panicked, grabbing the hem of his shirt, tears almost falling. Jesse stood up with a cold laugh, pulled out a dagger, and walked toward the monitor. In desperation, I blurted out, "I choose dare." He stopped in his tracks, and a smile reappeared on his face. "Kneel." Without hesitation, I knelt at his feet. "Crawl over here and kiss me." Jesse crossed his legs, reclining on the sofa, his deep voice carrying an irresistible pressure. I froze in place, unable to believe my ears. Everyone around us held their breath in suspense. Jesse's patience was clearly wearing thin. He picked up a dart from the table and casually aimed it at a boy. Before any of us could react, the dart had pierced straight into the boy's left eye. Blood streamed down the corner of his eye, and his scream shattered the deathly silence of the basement. "Did you hear me this time?" Jesse picked up another dart, his eyes icy cold. I nodded frantically in terror, my knees scraping against the cold floor as I inched my way over to him. Looking at his face, so close to mine, I closed my eyes, grabbed his tie, and kissed him. Jesse kept his eyes open, examining me with playful curiosity. Feeling uncomfortable under his gaze, I mustered up the courage to cover his eyes with my hand. That action seemed to flip a switch, he immediately took control, and the kiss became urgent and intense. The entanglement of lips and teeth left me barely able to breathe. In the chaos, my hand brushed against the dagger on the table, and my heart skipped a beat. "Kill him?" The thought flashed through my mind for a split second before I suppressed it. I wasn't as ruthless as him. Even if I managed to stab him, with his vigilance, would never be able to escape. What's more, the power gap between us was too great. I stood no chance against him. Jesse quickly noticed my little movement. I hastily pulled my hand back and forced an apologetic smile. I touched it by accident. The smile on his lips widened. He lit a mint cigarette, and through the swirling smoke, he leaned close to my ear, his cold lips brushing against my earlobe. How about coming to my room? I have even more daggers like this there. We can finish what we started here. His voice was irresistibly tempting, but I knew that once I stepped inside that room, I would never come out again. I shook my head firmly. Very well, I won't force you. Jesse stood up and stretched lazily. You'll come to me willingly sooner or later. He declared the game a draw for the day. No one would be sent away, but no one would be released either. Tomorrow's game, he warned, would be far more dangerous. With that, he turned around and left the basement. Chapter 2, Moral Coercion and Werewolf Kill Horror. After Jesse left, the basement erupted into chaos. Ella, do you actually know him? How does he know your name? A group of girls surrounded me, their eyes filled with suspicion. I really don't know him. I explained. He probably saw my student ID. But my words only convinced a few people. The boy who had been hit in the eye with the dart was named Zach. He had been lying on the floor this entire time, but now he suddenly spoke up, his voice hoarse with anger. Ella, you bitch. If you had just swallowed your ridiculous pride and kissed him earlier, would I have to suffer like this? I hung my head, a twinge of guilt tugging at my heart, but I didn't know what to say. Zach, watch your mouth. Leah, who was sitting next to me, couldn't stand it anymore. She was my best friend and had always stood up for me. Who was it that was shouting about wanting to stay in a luxury manor on the bus? Who pressured the monitor to come here? If it weren't for you guys, how would we have ended up in this mess? Zach was left tongue-tied, and the others who had insisted on coming to the manor hung their heads in shame. Besides, if it weren't for Ella, you would have lost both eyes. Leah continued. And now you have the nerve to yell at her like this? Zach was so enraged by her retort that he started shouting insults again, spewing vulgarities at both of us, from our ancestors to our present selves. But Leah didn't get angry, she crossed her arms and sneered, keep yelling. After all, if you die of tetanus tonight, it won't be me who suffers the consequences. That comment pushed Zach over the edge. His wound split open again, and blood gushed out. He glared at me. Ella, hurry up and get me a doctor. Otherwise, I'll haunt you even after I'm dead. I can't. I replied coldly, 3 simple words. The monitor stepped forward to mediate. He took off his glasses and sighed, everyone, stop arguing. Zach is just in a bad mood because he's injured. Ella, I'm the one who's sorry for all of you. If we get out of here, I'll cover all the medical expenses. Suddenly, he knelt down and looked up at me. Ella, all our lives are in your hands. You won't let us down, will you? The other classmates quickly echoed, yeah, Ella, you'll definitely save us. Even if you have to do something with him, we'll never tell anyone about it afterward. These words weighed on me like heavy chains, suffocating me. I had never wanted to be some kind of savior, but now everyone was pinning their hopes on me. Just then, a man dressed in a high-collared uniform walked in, pushing a dining cart loaded with elaborate dishes and a set of medical tools. He looked at Zach expressionlessly. You wanted a doctor? Zach stared at the scissors in his hand and shook his head frantically, and no. No need. But the man ignored him. He stepped forward, pinned Zach down, and pressed an alcohol-soaked cotton ball directly onto his wound. Zach let out a shrill scream and fainted. The man calmly cut away the rotten flesh around Zach's eye and stuffed cotton into the socket. The entire process was done with seamless efficiency, leaving us all trembling with fear. I am the butler here. The man wiped the blood off the scissors and left us with a message. Master Lin said that tomorrow's game will have 12 participants. Prepare yourselves. After the butler left, the basement fell into a deathly silence. Staring at the feast on the table, roast steak, mashed potatoes, blueberry pie, we ate without any appetite. Everyone knew that this might be our last meal. The monitor cut a piece of steak and handed it to me, his tone gentle yet carrying an undeniable pressure. Ella, you won't let us down, right? I picked up a glass of red wine, my voice shaky. I'll try my best. It was a sleepless night. The next day, the torrential rain showed no sign of stopping. Jesse appeared in the basement right on time, dressed in a black suit, his posture straight and imposing. He glanced at everyone and smiled a breathtaking smile. This time, their fates will be in their own hands. He pulled out a deck of poker cards, flicked his wrist lightly, and the cards scattered across the floor. Have you ever played Werewolf Kill? The winning team can all leave. Those who die during the game will face the consequences themselves. He poured a glass of red wine and held it to my lips. I turned my head to avoid it, picked up the glass myself, and drank it all in one gulp. Those with broken chains, come with me upstairs. Jesse said. Myself, the monitor, Zach, the football team captain, Leah, and 7 other classmates, 12 of us in total, followed Jesse up to the second floor. The layout of the second floor was bizarre, 6 rooms facing each other in pairs, with a large room at the end. Its decor clashed sharply with the rest of the manor, exuding an eerie vibe. Jesse assigned us rooms and told us our roll cards were in the nightstand drawers. Then he led us to a long table on the first floor. In the middle of the table was a dark, rectangular hole. Jesse spoke with a playful tone, bullets will be fired from here. Those voted out and those who break the rules will die. He glanced toward the front door, where 2 classmates were standing, clearly intending to run away. You'll die if you try to leave. One of them immediately backed down, but the other cursed him as a coward and rushed headlong into the rainstorm. But within a few dozen meters, his body began to melt in a grotesque way. A minute later, nothing was left but a pool of dark red blood on the ground. Everyone was stunned into silence by the horrifying sight. No one dared to mention escaping again. It turned out that the manor was surrounded by traps filled with corrosive chemicals. There will be no replacements for those who died last night. Jesse sat at the head of the table, idly toying with his cutlery. One team will just have to fend for themselves. It's getting dark, go back to your rooms and confirm your identities. The classmates dragged their heavy feet back to their rooms. Jesse called out to me, Ella, want to stay with me? I can protect you. I shook my head and turned to walk into my own room. The furnishings felt inexplicably familiar, as if I had seen them somewhere before. I opened the nightstand drawer and found a seer roll card inside. Thank goodness, I wasn't a werewolf. I immediately locked the door and blocked it with a cabinet, determined not to fall asleep tonight. When the clock struck midnight, an overwhelming wave of drowsiness washed over me. I pinched my thigh hard, but I couldn't resist it. My vision went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I found myself lying on the bed, and Jesse was lying right next to me. He leaned close to me, a smile tugging at his lips. Seer, it's your turn to perform. 12 cards with numbers written on them appeared in front of me. I picked one at random,